going from LA to Nashville, as many people have done actually.
Nice.
Leave LA, come here to Nashville. It's better here.
I know. Well, right now we're in Florida,
Oh,
and we
we've
fly back on the 12th. So,
you've gone coast to coast. So, we talk about travel, but every aspect of travel is a journey.
oh yeah,
And you've had a pretty cool journey, which you've documented. You talk about a lot.
yes, yes.
It's the real truth about cancer.
The real nuts and bolts of it, yeah. Instead of what we think cancer is and
Yep.
experience, we never get the full journey. I think it's because most people don't want to see the full journey. They're just like, oh, pray for me, hair's falling out, and that kind of thing. And I was like, how do I fix this? I don't want to do that. I want to do something else.
And the educational process is one that we continually learn about, right? And that's
Yes.
the fun part, is it doesn't stop.
No, it's so funny because everything I learned in 2010 to what I know now, I mean, there's just way more things to keep learning. You just don't stop learning.
Are you finding that through this journey, though, with having a personal life experience that shifted your focus, right? Because survival is always a great motivator.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
kind of unique in that aspect.
Yes.
But are you finding that a lot of the core principles that you're getting down to over this 13 plus year journey are becoming more simple? Or is it really complex, or is this process actually quite simple? It's just doing it properly.
Exactly. It is quite simple, and it is about doing it properly. I think it's that when you're first going through the journey and learning, you get so many different people and different advices and stuff that it becomes overwhelming.
Mhm.
And I think that's what it is. But once you get to all the nuts and bolts of the whole thing, you're going, okay, so I just have to cleanse my body out, nourish it back to health, and balance things out so that it's running right. And I just have to figure out what that is. And but in the beginning, you're just going, oh, but there's this person said this, and when that person said that, that's not good. And I learned that it just depends. Someone may say something's really bad for you because of whatever that ingredient or whatever that thing is. But when you look more deeper into what that thing does, and it's what you need, then it's not really bad for you. I mean, even when they were saying, in the beginning, they were like going, oh, you shouldn't eat apricot seeds because, and then
Cyanide.
it's poison and it's right. And I'm like, well, why would we have poison in our food that God created for us to eat? That's too close to home that we're putting it into our mouths. So it really didn't, a lot of stuff didn't make sense, but I started just trying things out. And honestly, it's been such a journey because I went from, learning my lines, building this character to be on set in front of a camera to create this story, to now it's like, well, no, now I have to build my knowledge to understand what this character needs to go through to turn things back around in my real life. So it was interesting. It was because even as an actor, you have to do a lot of research into that if you want to be a good actor.
Yep.
You go into the depth of this character is like this. Well, that's their personality traits, and then you kind of look around how people act or walk or talk or act, the whole thing, so you can breathe that into your life. It's kind of the same thing, but to another level, because then this is about fighting for your life. So it's not about fighting to get that role. It's about fighting to stay alive.
What do you think was a more profound role, though? I mean, because you're playing the role of a survivor, and I hate the term "fake it till you make it." I think that's just an asinine line of bullshit.
Yep.
But the importance of being strong through a process, and not just for yourself, but for those around you, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Because I know, with my wife, with what she's already previously been through and what she continually deals with because of the amount of stress that we go through, and how the journey, once your body is compromised to an extent, it has that memory, and it will go back to it if you're not doing the key things. So when fear comes up, it's being able to have that strength. So did you feel through this journey, and I don't think it's, if you've never been through it, like I've never had cancer, how do you think your acting background and what you were taught in that aspect played a role in your road to recovery, of being able to show strength when you know internally it's like, I'm dealing with some shit and I don't like this?
Right. Well, actually, I think it plays a big role because I was always used to, I things could go crazy at home, but now I have to be this complete different person in front of the camera to go through this audition to land that job. Or something went bad and now we're on set and we're filming, and I literally just have to become that person. And I think that helped a lot because when, even when I had like a week left to live, and everything was shutting down. Like I had cancer throughout my body, 5% use of one lung. I was barely, it was like I was breathing through a straw. It was horrible. But, and I can't even explain it, but I could feel death. I didn't even know you could feel death. I was feeling death and still knew that I was still going to come, I was going to beat this, even though death was sitting there knocking at my door. But I had to become this person where, like, no matter what I was feeling, no matter what I was going through, I'm going to turn this around. Not, I hope I turn this around. I'm wishing I turned it. It was really like every part of me just knew, so that I took that on and then I displayed that to my friends, to my family. Like that, it's like I took it in and this is what it's gonna be. And so even when people would go, oh, so, and I was like, oh no, please don't talk to me that way. Talk to me like I'm fine. Don't talk to me like you think I'm gonna die. So, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, so, and I would make sure, like, if you're around me, if you're talking to me, talk to me like we're gonna see each other next year and we're gonna party or we're gonna do whatever. We're gonna we're gonna get together. And that was huge for me. I even had to get to a point where those that were negative, that had this thing were like, I can't believe you're not doing chemotherapy and radiation and you're just gonna die. And yep. Whether it didn't even matter if it was family. I had to cut ties because I had to have my mindset not hindered, but with anybody's other thoughts. Because I really believe that that energy plays a huge role in healing. So it's not just what we're putting in our bodies, but what we're feeling. And so
it's all energy, frequency, and you're getting the energy and the frequency of what you're putting in, but you're also either a byproduct of your environment or a victim of your environment.
Right.
And so here's an interesting question, though, because you talk about being able to feel death.
Yes.
And if you had chosen to say, I quit, I can't do this, how quickly do you think you would have left?
I would have, if I would have gave up, I probably would have been gone within a day or two, for sure. And I say that because my body was it just was, everything was shutting down. And so I think people underestimate the power of the brain, the power of the mind. And if your mind says no, it doesn't matter what your body's feeling or what it's going through, your mind's going to start doing whatever it needs to do to correct those feelings and what's going on. So I honestly, the way I felt death, and it was like, it's just the weirdest feeling, but knowing that I wasn't going to go anywhere and that I'm turning this around, it's like the brain just kind of works with you. I can't even explain it, but it really does play a role. And I think when I look at people that I talk with, because I talk with a lot of people around the world who, they're sent home to die. In fact, a few now, just past week, I had someone who they gave 3 months to live and died in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, just a few days ago, another one, their dad was given 3 months to live, 90 days. And so I said, that's the last thing they need to put in his mind, because the body will go along with what you're saying. For me, I hate when doctors give a time.
It's one of the things. It's one of the things that pisses me off to no end of working with oncologists and working with people that have been given a diagnosis. Is like, who in the hell are you, right? Exactly. And we have, and Christina, I think, has gone over one of our cases that we have that's here in town, and she was at City of Hope. She was out in California and in Phoenix, and she's 20. I think she's 25 years old, and I think she was given 2 weeks and weighed probably, I'll say, a heavy heavy 80 pounds. I'm probably over on what she weighed. She's about 5'5", and you could see every bone in her body. And, you know, we got a referral. I won't say we, but I'll say we when I say Christina and I, but I didn't do anything on it. But one of our close friends works with her sister, and she's here in Nashville. And so our friend was like, hey, I got a friend that might be able to help. And he was just thinking, oh, she could provide some consolation. And it turned into Christina getting her entire medical file and saying, look, they've got her on hospice, and it's likely that the surgery that they did, because she had colon cancer, and the surgery that they did nicked an artery that caused her to go septic, that caused all these issues. They want her to die because if she lives, they're liable for what they caused. And, you know, the family was like, look, we don't want her to die. What do we need to do? And the first thing, Christina's like, look, you got to get her out of hospice because they're going to kill her. And, you know, they went through, it took a week or so for them to do this. The doctor gave her 2, moved her here to Nashville. And, you know, then Christina had gone through her medical file, and she's like, well, you know, this is going to be a little bit of a journey. And we went to go see her, and she was with her family, and literally was probably 60, 70 pounds, 80 pounds tops, 80s high, like I said. And, you know, so Christina spent like an hour and a half talking to her. And, you know, I went in to go say hi, and I'm like, look, you want to live? She's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, cool. Then let's do this. And she couldn't eat. So we took Restore and Clean Slate, and we just rubbed it right over her tumor site. And, so, you know, because, you know, the skin is 80% permeable, and she couldn't eat. So we're like, hey, you know what? Christina's like, just put it right on where the issue was. And a week after that, she was able to start some chemo and radiation because she needed it. Right. And I think this is the important part of so many people from an allopathic therapy standpoint. You still look at the old school, right? 10, 15, 20 years ago, to where it was, you know, therapeutics, especially in cancer, was like dropping a nuclear bomb. And it's like, let's just kill everything and maybe something will work. Yeah. Now they're, you know, depending, and if you have a background and, you know, you're an adjunct professor in oncology at Johns Hopkins, and you've been at Harvard in nanotechnology and bioscience engineering and 20 years in biotech, you might have a little more insight, which she does. And, you know, so she was like, you need to do this, but you also have to do this and this and this. You've got to use Clean Slate. You got to use Restore. You've got to use Relive Greens, because that's going to help offset all the stuff that's going to be a major issue. And I mean, this girl's taken a hell of a turnaround, and it's been months now, and she's still going. And, you know, so you look at that road to recovery, and a lot of it is here because of the power of our intention. Right. And the understanding of, look, I am in control. I own this. This is my deal. There's nothing on the outside that can dictate, you know, what's going to go on, and making that choice, and then going on the journey of saying, how is this going to work? So how's that been like? I mean, because you've done this for 13 years now. We get a little introduction. You've done a lot. You've helped a lot of people. You've given guidance, but now you've got a couple more tools that you've been playing with, and you've seen some different outcomes.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's been such a blessing because, you know, because I get bombarded sometimes where there's like so many from different places, and I understand the desperation because I was there. So I remember just praying, like, what else can I do to kind of like speed things up to get them in a different space instead of this slow, you know, juice and change his diet, because it's not so easy. And no joke, the next day, someone that I hadn't talked to like in 7 years said, hey, you know, I know you got this podcast, and, you know, went on to about our health show. I know this detox goes, I think you should talk to it. And that's where I got introduced to Root. And I was like, okay, I want to know more, because what's the you know, the chances that I do a prayer and the very next day someone I haven't spoke to in years reaches out. And I was like, okay, I want to talk. When I spoke with them, I found out about Root. I interviewed them on our show. I was like, oh my gosh, I got the stuff. I tried it myself. And because I'm always cleaning, I'm very sensitive to stuff. So anything I take, I'll know, right? first day I took it, within an hour, I felt like I was 15. No joke. I'm going, oh my, and I called my husband, was like, you got to get home. You got to try this stuff. Like,
I
he's
thought you're
like,
like,
"Check
you got to
it
get home
out."
right now. I'm in a good mood.
I'm
Chris would
like,
be
I
like,
feel amazing. Yeah, it was like, holy moly. Like my thought, like everything was just focused and I felt good and I had this energy and it was just like, I felt really like, I can't even be, because I always felt good, but I didn't think I could get any better. And I was like,
yep.
oh, I wasn't feeling that great. You don't realize it until something comes in and then takes it to another level. And I'm like, oh, this is great stuff. So after that, I started sharing it with everyone. I mean, it didn't matter what they were dealing with, whether it was diabetes or high blood pressure, cholesterol, cancer. Mostly it's cancer, dementia, the whole thing. And even with my mom, who my sister had reached out, and my mom really was really bad. She didn't have much memory. She was walking, she wasn't really walking well. So she had to be in a wheelchair because she was constantly falling. She had sciatic nerve pain. Just a mess. She was wearing diapers. She just couldn't make it to the bathroom. She was just really bad. So I'm like, I got to get her on route. I just want to try it. Like, I really feel the way it made me feel that it's going to make a difference. No joke. I get out there. My sister flies me out there. She's like, I don't know if Mom's going to make it. I get out there to Wisconsin. I stay out there for a month. I bring all the route with me. She couldn't even get on a bed. She had to lay on a couch because it had to be low. In 4 days, and this is no exaggeration. And this is me, it's my mom. They said, if you want me to help, we're going to do it my way. So I took the bag of prescription drugs my mom had and I got rid of it. And my sisters were like freaking out, like, oh, she's been taking the heart medication for 30 years, 30 plus years. And I'm like, we're doing it my way. So I said, I felt that if I'm taking out the problem while nourishing back the cells and everything's getting balanced, why would she have an issue? It just made sense to me. So I got rid of the bag of prescriptions, gave her the full trinity, the Relive Greens, like everything. Give me back my youth. And by the 4th day, my mom was no longer hunched over. She didn't need a wheelchair. She was hopping on the bed. She, like her posture, everything, her memory just started just coming back. Like she didn't look spacey anymore. She looked focused. She knew, like, even in the beginning, she kept calling my husband Peter, my sister's husband. I'm like, no, Mom, that's Chris. But after that, it's like she knew who everybody was. I mean, she got her cahoots together, and all the inflammation she had was gone. So she dropped this weight, and she didn't eat before. She was eating more now. So it just like it's flipped. I had another person who had the issue with breast cancer, and because of the inflammation, her breast was, like the nipple was in, right? Just kind of.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. And she couldn't, when she hugs people, it hurt. She had all these issues. So she got on it. She started even using, not only drinking rum coffee, she was using that also for her coffee enemas.
Oh, absolutely. I will, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take a short commercial break to talk so you can get some information on these little amazing root products. Yes. And a little bit from DRC. Then we'll be right back.
Indulge in the extraordinary taste of rum roast, where passion meets innovation. Sourced exclusively from Guatemala, our coffee is not just a beverage, it's an experience. What sets us apart? Our patent-pending solutions, crafted by the brilliant Dr. Christina Rom, a scientist, mother, and coffee enthusiast. With a mission to enhance lives, Dr. Rom's journey led to the perfect blend: single-sourced organic beans, detoxed and roasted in small batches by our award-winning master roaster. The result? The cleanest, purest cup of coffee you'll ever savor. Rom Roast, where science meets satisfaction. Elevate your coffee experience today.
So this is something that, I've been a big fan of, myself since when I turned 40. My birthday present to myself was my first colon hydrotherapy session.
Oh, yeah.
I took a picture of my feet on the wall, and I was going to post it on social media, and Christina's like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, why
that's
not?
Funny.
But
oh, that's funny. I love it.
And then I had a couple of my friends, tell me about the value of, of doing coffee enemas.
Yeah.
Because I stopped drinking coffee when I was 8, and hadn't had any coffee to drink. And I'm like, coffee enemas. I did my research, and the biggest problem with coffee is fungus and parasites, and so you have to try to find a good green coffee and everything to do it right. And then Duquesne wants to have a coffee shop and a bookstore, so we end up making rum roast. And the first thing I did, actually, when we got it, was, one, I tried a cup of espresso, and then the next morning it was, all right, we're doing coffee enemas, let's see how this goes. And it's a different experience, and it's outstanding.
Yes,
So,
it is, honestly. I mean, because even when I did coffee enemas, I always did the air roasted and everything that was specific for enemas. But when I did the rum, I'm like, oh, I like this way better. So my friend did that, and she said her whole body got, and I think it's because she was fighting what she's been fighting, right? She said my whole body got warm, even especially in her breast area where she had all the swelling and and the hard tissue and all the stuff that was happening. It out of nowhere, because she showers daily and sometimes twice a day, and she always has to clean like the inside because it goes in, right? Was back to normal. Like it was she looked, she's like, wait, what when did this just happen? Because she's showering every day, and out of nowhere, here she goes to shower and it's back to normal. The breast is now equal to the other breast. She has no more pain. Inflammation is gone. Yeah. The hard tissue and knots and stuff gone. I mean, we're talking, this is someone who's been fighting breast cancer and going through all this stuff, to where she's going, wait, what just happened? And this is her doing the coffee enemas, olive root, by the way. She does, Give Me Back My Youth, the Trinity, all of it. And she called me and left me this 7-minute message of excitement. So I was like, oh my God, this is so great. So yeah, but that's what I mean. This root, and honestly, it took it to another level. I've tried many supplements of anything, and I take it because I know our food it's depleted and we have to supplement. But it's not like you're going to get the best. It's not like who's formulated or what, if there's any fillers or stuff that's harmful. But here, like, that you're getting the best, that that it is organic, that it is gluten-free, that any toxins have been removed and cleaned in the right way, and in the way it's processed. And it's like, that's why I tell people, it's like, no, this is like cellular food, because it's addressing you at a cellular level, because it's going into there and pulling and taking, and I see it. Like, everyone I've shared this with, whether they're fighting cancer or any of those things, they see a reversal. I had another friend, her daughter had the same issue, and she was pretty sure she had breast cancer. And so she's very young, but I said, try this. And no joke, she went and did all of it. She got on it. She was like, okay, I'm doing this. And she changed her diet, and she got on all of root. She's good. She doesn't have the lump anymore, then swelling, because she was swollen, back to normal. Good. And this
it's amazing. It's amazing what happens when you start to turn on a couple of things. But the one thing that is so crucial, the two aspects that I really want to hit on, is when we look at ingredients, what you don't see, what's not on the label, and what is truly the secret is the energetic, the frequency component of what's done, right? And what you talked about is formulator, company, process. Those are, I will say, more important than the ingredients themselves, right? Because one, you have to have the right source, you have to have the right quality, because all ingredients, just by saying you have a name, doesn't mean you have quality. But the person themselves, who is actually putting their energy, their intention into a formulation, is so crucial. Because if you have people that are creating things just for the sole aspect of making money,
right,
the resonance of that is not going to be something that's conducive to actually giving you something, because the sole intent is to take from you. So when you have someone that is, one, completely focused on the highest quality possible, but then understands the power of quantum physics, the power of frequency, the power of love, the power of intention, not just because of studying it, because they used it in biotech. That's what people don't understand. The aspects of polarization, the use of crystals like Clint up to the light, the use of frequencies and quantum physics is not something that is just for the woo-woo crowd. This is something that biotech's been using for decades, because that's how they can make, you know, these human monoclonal antibodies and other drugs more deliverable. But sometimes the intention that's behind them is not ideal, which can lead to some other things. But when all of that intention, that love, are combined, and then you have nature's best sources of some of its best ingredients that are then properly stacked.
Yes.
Right. And it's a lot like cooking, and right. And there's no guy that's going to outcook an amazing woman in the kitchen. Right. We have amazing chefs, but I guarantee you can put Mom up against Emeril Lagasse or anybody else, and Mom's going to kick his ass.
Yep.
Right. Because it's love. It's what's in it. And you know that you can go home for a home cooked meal, and maybe your mom's not the greatest cook and she's going to burn the grilled cheese sandwich. You're still going to eat it, and it's going to be amazing. Right. And I think that's the true aspect of what you were hitting on initially, of being able to turn that on. The second part, at least from my side, I've torn muscles. You know, I blew up 60% of my hamstring. I've torn my ACL. I've had injuries, but I've never had the opportunity to be sick. Right. And a lot of that's due to my journey and how I was raised and what I came through. Now, my wife will tell you that I'm sick mentally. And that's a completely different issue and diagnosis. But the one thing that is so crucial in this is, and especially Lourdes, for what you've done, is you've gone through this journey to go from knowing death was right next to you to now being freaking outstanding again. That one, so many people that have challenges that they're dealing with want to recover, and you get to be a beacon, you know, for that, to show a process to get better. More importantly is, if you're watching this, you're like, well, I don't have any of that shit. I'm not dealing with any of that yet. I don't want to deal with that. If you're elite in what you do, as you mentioned, there's a realm of performance that you are completely unfamiliar with. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's the fun part of being able to tap that and, you know, say, oh, you know, like you talked about from an acting standpoint of, okay, I've got all my lines. And especially when you're looking at, okay, I need this, but you know what? I'm going to pull a couple different personality traits. I'm going to do these things. Or if you're an athlete, knowing it comes down to crunch time and you don't choke. Right. And, you know, this is what we're seeing in elite athletes from all different sports, from darts to bowling. We love bowling so much because of what AJ's doing. We have a professional bowler that had never won on tour, and he started using Restore in zero in, makes it to the finals in one of his matches, not only wins it, but bowls a 300 game in the final, and then gets invited to go to South America for the Pan Am Games to represent the United States last month as an alternate, because somebody else got sick and he had just made his first victory. So he got invited as an alternate, goes down there, wins that, bowls another 300 game in the championship game. He's like, I've never done anything like this.
That is awesome.
This
but
is what we're capable of. It's just tapping into that and knowing that the capability is there, the intention, because of this little aspect of neurotransmission, because it's the point you hit on of, I just didn't have the energy. I didn't have the tools. That's all. It all comes from here, right? It's all that dopamine and serotonin, but having the reserves and having the tools that your gut needs when your brain wants it, because it's all going to communicate with your heart. So important. So brain, heart, gut, you know, right through your vagus nerve. And when your brain's like, hey, I could use a little bit more right now, and your gut's sitting there going, I got it for you. Let's go.
Exactly.
This becomes fun.
Well, that's what I love about it. It really like I'm constantly. This is even another one. My son-in-law, who has been in a wheelchair for 8 years, he had, I think, like they nicked a nerve or something when they were when they were removing the tumor from his spine, and so he had a lot of health issues. You know, things happened, but he's young, and so he's been living this life, to have always been walking, and then now you don't, and for 8 years you have to rely on people and and things. I was like, no, I think we can fix this. I think everything is repairable. If you have the right tools and you're doing the right things, everything is fixable. I don't believe that they go, oh well, the doctor said. They can only tell you that because the stuff that they work with isn't going to do the things that your body needs. But if you give the body the tools it needs, the body will do the job. And so he's always been able to move his left leg. Not like 100, but he could move it with no problem. He just couldn't keep his body up because of the weakness of everything. And so he's got en route. And I added the Give Me Back My Youth, which, by the way, his favorite. And he usually takes it because his right leg doesn't really move. That's where he doesn't have a lot of feeling in that area, or because of the nerve. So so he goes to move his foot, and for the first time, he can actually move his foot. And he started pushing his hand with his foot that he couldn't move before. And that was 1 month en route. 1 month.
So that's a little clean slate. He's using clean slate, restore, zero in, and Give Me Back My Youth and Relive.
Yep.
So
Sure
I think
is.
I saw your post on that. So the edema that he had in his calf.
Oh, and that went away. Yeah, he had severe edema. Gone.
Flushed out.
Yep.
And so it's so cool when you see that. Yep. And then when you start to get into the mechanisms and understand,
yes,
the lymphatic drainage and allowing the lymphatic system to start kicking in. And the interesting part is when we look at injuries, right? And this is where I can say my experience really comes in. But when you deal with the spine, and if you have an injury to an area, you have this whether it's due to an incision, which is an injury, by the way, and especially when you understand that this is an electrical mechanism and you're cutting through meridians, even if you sew them back up, you're doing some damage.
Oh yeah.
The injury, that point, increases a massive amount of ionic activity, right? Because the body's got to heal, and that takes energy. The energy that's taking place there actually acts as a magnet for a lot of the metals. So the toxic metals will amalgamate in those areas and create blockages. So that's where the healing process comes in. So you're dead on that you can heal it, but it's not the healing by saying, oh, let's add a bunch of this to it. It is the first aspect of what's on the back of the shirt, of addition by subtraction, and this is why clean slate is so special in two aspects. One, the ability to very slowly and passively grab onto and remove those toxins, but do it in a manner that this and the operating system itself is dictating where it wants to use it, right? It's like having this little green garbage truck that's like, hey, you know what, you guys need to go clean up that area today. Go get that, and then take that out, and then tomorrow you're going to be on a different route. And not this route, but a different path. And you're going to go over there tomorrow. And then the day after that, then you're going to go over here and you're going to get that stuff. And then we'll see that. But at the same time, it's delivering nature's most important little component that we put on the label as silicon dioxide, because that's the way we have to classify it. But this bioavailable silica, the orthosilicic acid that is derived from nature's most powerful crystal and nature's most bioavailable source of this bioavailable silica that allows the regeneration process to start taking place. And that's the energetic component that is so cool, right? And you see this and you go, okay, he's been dealing with this for 8 years. He's in a chair. He's all swollen. This doesn't look very good over the long term. We know how this is going to go. Organs start to go, I need to move around a little bit. I need a little bit of activity, and sitting in this chair is not going to solve the problem. You do a couple things and then you watch the lights come back on. You go, wait a minute, what have we been waiting for? Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it gave him a lot of hope. So he was just like,
And is that not the most valuable piece of everything that we get to work with, of being able to have tools that you just do that one thing, right? For some, and that's all it takes, is a little bit of hope or a little bit of understanding of, one, somebody's done this before. And I think that's so crucial, right? Because your journey is not the first time someone's been on that path, and it's not the last time.
Right.
But being able to be confident enough in yourself and what you've been able to do, and I call it the importance of conviction, right? Of having that conviction of knowing, because could you really sit down with someone and go, yeah, you're going to be all right? Most people will go, I can't say that, right? But your journey, and I know my journey, I can sit down with damn near anybody, and you ask a couple questions. If somebody's really, really sick, if we're dealing with that aspect, it's like, do you want to die? Because you have to honestly ask the question. You'll never tell someone that they're going to, but you can ask them, are you ready to go? And that's a two-sided coin that's really important. And growing up in a veterinary practice, I mean, I've been around a lot of death. And you have to accept that there's a time for everyone. And we don't determine that. I don't determine it for anybody else. And this is where the medical industry is so jacked up. There's no one that can determine when someone else's time is going to be, but we will make that choice. So if it's time, great. You know what? Let's make sure you're comfortable. But if it's not time yet, and that it's time to get down to business, all right, we got tools.
Exactly. And I think that's it. It's like, don't let a doctor tell you what time it's time. Let yourself tell you that. If you're done and you just don't want to be here anymore, and you're sick and you're like, I just don't want to keep fighting it, that's your choice. But don't let it be because the doctor said you don't have a choice and you really do want to live, but he said, that's it, get your affairs in order, it's over. It doesn't make sense, because even with the doctor that told me, I always say he gave me a week, but to be honest, he was more like any day. Any day now you're going.
Like, thanks.
Right. And I was just like, I am so not going nowhere. But if a person says, well, he said, and I do feel this, you can't let you have to understand that everything, like when you have that hope and you go, I can do this, and you can do this, do it. Just do it. Don't let everyone who's ever exceeded in anything in life is because even if the person said this is as far as you can go, they're like, well, let me shoot higher. I may or may not do it, but I'm not going to know if I don't try. And they always succeed. And they're always the one that's breaking that record or that record, because they succeeded. They didn't go, well, they've only gone this far. That's why records are always broken. I had one doctor who, after I got out of the coma and all that, and it was so funny because and my husband got mad. He's like, he shouldn't have told you that. I said, actually, I'm glad he did, because it shows me that I wasn't going anywhere, regardless of what they thought or how they felt. And he was just like, I honestly didn't think you were going to make it. And so, but I'm glad to tell you that you can go home today and everything. And that, and it was just, even though he told me that, I knew that I was going to be fine. And even as I laid in bed, and that's another thing I learned a lot about the energy, is when you see someone in bed, in a coma, it does not mean that they're not aware of what's happening.
Yep.
Big time. Whether they wake up and don't remember the stuff because they've been drugged up doesn't mean they didn't experience it. I remember someone that came to visit me when the hospital had said, oh, well, you shouldn't be able to dream when you're under. I said, exactly. And yet I saw everything. I saw it all. I saw myself laying in bed. I saw my husband in the hallway, and it was interesting. I could never hear anyone say anything negative because I couldn't hear it. I could only hear or sense anything that was positive. It was the strangest thing. And I think it's because my eldest daughter told everyone, look, you go into that room and you cannot cry and nothing negative in there. Because I've made it very clear, if anything ever gets bad, the only way I can get out of that is if you stay positive that I'm okay. Do not bring anything into that room of mine. And so she made sure, even my sisters got upset with her, like, she's going to tell us we can't cry. And, so, but it stood that way. And it was lovely because I was I can't tell you how many times they would be talking in the cafeteria, and I'd be sitting there with them, ready to tell them something. And then I was back in the room, and I could see myself back in the bed, you know. And so I tell people all the time, don't get wrapped in that they're in this situation and they're not experiencing something, because they are. I remember everything. I remember laying there and seeing myself. I remember when they had this thing on me, freezing my body because I stayed at 105 temperature. So they had to bring it down. But I saw it all. I went through the whole experience. I thought I was in an Asian country, that they were pumping me, and this is no joke, that they were pumping me with natural herbs so that my body could heal. While I was in California in a coma, and they thought I was done. And I'm like, and I wake up and I'm like, wait, I'm not in an Asian country. I'm in California. So there was
Which is kind of like an Asian country now.
right. Yes. So true. Yeah. Now it has. You're right.
It's like, well, there you go. It's foreshadowing.
And it goes to show you the power of our energy, because our energy extends outside of our bodies. And so our way of thinking and what we're doing, and that's what I love about Root, is because, you know, I love quantum physics. I love the frequencies. I love energy, and I understand how I got to experience it. So it makes sense that when I was spoken about Root, it just clicked. I'm like, oh, this is it. This is a supplement I've been looking for. You know, yes, let's do these diets. Yes, let's do the coffee. But this is the thing. And no joke, no matter what the person's been dealing with, when I had them add this to it, it just flipped it.
So this is the fun part. So we're going to give an homage to your homie, and one guy that I love to hang out with. We have to give a shout out to Isai. So what we're going to call this is Mission Possible.
Yes, Mission
With that,
Possible.
we say konnichiwa, my friends.